Welcome to my Hebrew channel, Miel Hebraica. We're looking at Ruth chapter 2, verse 1. We've taken a little while to do the first chapter. Now we've finished with that. We're moving right through it, one or two verses per study. And we're entering a new phase of our story. This very first verse introduces a very important personage into the narration. That's Mr. Boaz. He's the man of strength, the man who's the person who rescues and who restores things, and who is very cognizant of what has happened to the family of Elimelech, and quite willing to restore things. So we begin. It's a very moving story right here. It's most of it takes place out on the field of Boaz. In the chapter 1, we've seen the fields of Moab, but here we have a field of Boaz. So it points or it focuses in on a certain place and with a certain group of people. Boaz, his workers, male and female workers, and Ruth, of course, participating in that group work. And then later on, the very last few verses of the chapter, we find Ruth returning to Naomi and explaining all that has happened. And Naomi also responding with what the legal or the family dynamics are. So it's a chapter with a lot of good movement to it. Very interesting personal things happening there. We have to look at it from things happening out in the fields. So we're going to be looking at harvesters, we're going to be looking at grain, we're going to look at fields, we're going to look at how that's delineated, all those things come together to make our story move forward. So it's a story of redemption, a story of care, a story of love, and respect for each other. So we're going to get into the first chapter here, which is, as I said, an introduction to who Boaz is and what he's like, his personality. And so very important step in our narration here. Have an English translation on hand because I'm just going to be using the Hebrew here, and you can check with your Bible app or your translation on hand. And it moves right along. The first chapter ends right here at Siluk Sof Pasuk, Ketzir She'orim. So this is then the harvest of the barleys, and Siluk Sof Pasuk moves right straight to the next chapter without indication of chapter division. At least we did get a nice Siluk Sof Pasuk to divide this verse from that one. So U and labial lamed here. So U, then and conjunction here. There's a matek here, keeping this first conjunction separately. U, le. Okay, good thing you'd have a conjunction here, or this matek, because then it does allow us to pronounce the Shema. Okay, U, le, Naomi, and to Naomi, possessive preposition here, belonging to Naomi. Very, very well-known use of the lamed in this kind of thing. In archaeology, if you find a jar and it says le melech or le whatever on top of it, that shows who owns it. Okay, and belonging to Naomi, Naomi. Modah. We have here this little circle here tells us we're looking at a kativ kare. Okay, kativ is the written, kare. Kare is the what you're going to read. Kare is the reading. Okay, reading, written, and it changes out one of the consonants, and in the kativ it's modah with a yod right here. Our scribe, in fact, wanted to emphasize the fact this is a yod. He could have just stretched it out like a bunch of the other. A lot of his other yods look a whole lot like vavs. Okay? Look at the difference here between say that one and that one, or that one and this one. They're quite. He's got a quite lengthy yods, but here he just shortened it right off. Put a little hook on the end, in fact, to shorten up his yod. This is a real yod. This is a real vav over here. He knew what was happening here, and so wanted to emphasize the fact that this was a yod. but it's a yod that's supposed to be pronounced as a holem with the holem on the top of it, and so it makes a kind of it's not meyada. It's one not a friend or a person who's just someone they just happen to know. Okay, somebody who an acquaintance you would say. Okay, a friend or an acquaintance. This personage here, speaking here again of Boaz, is a moda. So this is a mem. Take this next letter as a vav. So it makes it a holem. Okay, moda, and moda is a step up in importance. It's someone who's a friend with a position. Okay, it's a kinsman. It's a relative who's got things to say about it. Who's supposed to do things. Who's got obligations. So moda. Okay, moda. So the Ketif is even with the yod, we'd have to think of it as a special position because of the context here. But the Kare points it out very, very clearly. And this does bring this particular word, moda, into harmony with the very same word over in the first chapter of the first few verses of the next chapter, chapter 3. You'll find moda over there as well. It's not an extensively used word. I think it only appears twice in the Bible, here and then chapter 3. So Ruth sometimes the book of Ruth makes special uses of special words, and this happens to be one of them. It's based on the whole context of what happens in the story. It's a personage with responsibilities. It's a kinsman, it's a relative who has to do something. So, moda. So, relative, Laisha, of her husband. So, this is belonging to Naomi, belonging to her husband, same lamed of possession here, belonging to Ish, that's husband, and then of her. Okay, so you have a hey with a mapik, kamis hey mapik, husband of her. And so this word is used again, and this is just Ish. I find it kind of interesting in that when our story opens in Ruth 1 verse 1, you have Ish, who was over there, Bethlehem, and same thing out, a man, okay? So you start out her husband, and then a man, a personage, a man, Ish, and then from here on, it's descriptive of who this personage is, okay? A man, Gibor. Gibor is with strength, with power. It's often used for well, in David's case, he had Giborim, about 200 Giborim living close to his palace. A lot of them are Philistines. So Gibor is somebody who's got muscle, somebody who's got power, who's got influence, who's active. Okay, Gibor. Okay, so he's a person with energy. Okay, Gibor. Hayil. Now Hayil. Our translators, unfortunately, into English, and it happens in other languages as well, go down what's the short road or the easy road, and that they just say he's rich. Actually, the whole matter of being rich or with money has got very little to play with, very little to say about what happens in our story. I prefer very much to connect this Hayil to another Hayil we have in our story, and that's coming up fairly soon. Stay connected. And it's also found in Proverbs 31. It's the Eshet Hayil, the woman with virtue, the virtuous woman. And this then, if virtue works well for the woman, for the Eshet Hayil, virtue works well here for this man, okay, for Boaz. This is a man with virtue so this word is telling us he's a man who does the right thing, who's a man who can see things very clearly, and he does the right thing. So I much prefer a translation that go Ish, a man with lots of strength, who has great virtue, who does the right thing. Okay, Hayil, with great virtue. Mishpahat, from the family of, it's a construct ending with a tau here, and family, okay, that's an okay translation, But take a look at what the root is here. You got mim from the, and then this is from, and this makes it a substantive or classification, and then this one here, shafat. And we're going to see this word later on in our passage when Ruth refers to herself as a shafat, as a servant. So it's not just a family, but it's a family that's working together. Okay? Shafat as a service. It's a service-centered family, you can say. Sometimes the translators will use the word clan or group or working group. Yeah, working group is okay, but it's a family that has service together. That's a service family with service. Mishpahat, and this is the family then of Elimelech. Okay, Elimelech. Again, Elimelech is my God is king. Okay, and as I said at the very start of the studies, this is a very grandiose, a very, very powerful name, but it's something that Elimelech didn't live up to. Whoa, ouch! You can have a great name, but if you don't live up to it, it's empty. It's hypocrisy. So he didn't live up to his name. Instead of trusting in God, instead of having God as his king, leading every step of the way, he went off on his own path and suffered the consequences for it. So Elimelech is basically the tragedy of the story. The story has some tragic elements, and Elimelech is part of that. So Elimelech, who's this man. Now we're going to hear more of Elimelech, and the reason we do hear about him is that part of being Hayil is the willingness to restore this man's name. Everybody knew him. Everybody knew he had an inheritance. Everybody knew he had a family. But other people were willing to just have him slide into oblivion. But Boaz here was willing to maintain this man's name. So Shaphat Elimelech, who Shemo, and name of him, his name, conjunction here in the front of she, who Shemo. When you have it in front of a labial or a shin, it'll be vav with a surik, and in other cases you're going to just simply be using. We don't have any other examples here, but yeah, here's a vatomer. Okay, it'll be vatomer or vav with a patah or vav kun shiva. So here's surik. Okay, u shmo, and his name Boaz. Okay, Boaz. Boaz is combined from the element in and az, strength. Okay, so preposition in and oz, Boaz, in strength. You can go through, invite you to run through Proverbs 31, description of the virtuous woman, and she does her work, Boaz, in strength. Okay, in strength. There it appears as a adjective, and here it appears as a name. So, but it means in strength, with power, with strength. So Boaz. As I said, the story introduces, it keeps. We find the structure of the family, and then we find a personage here who will become front and center in our story. The description of him as an Ish Gibor Hayil defines what he is going to do in the story, and the word Shemo, he has a name, Boaz. He has a reputation, and so the rest of the story will connect with this personage, his actions, and his work on respecting people and restoring people's inheritance, restoring people's name, and glorifying Jehovah, and also being the instrument of protection for others. This man has wings that cover, but those wings are something that God provides. Jehovah covers people with his wings, but he uses instruments, he uses people to do it. And Boaz is one of those people who is at the service of Jehovah to cover people with the wings of protection. So great role. We're going to see a lot of Boaz in our story, and in very many good ways. So stick with it. Our lives will define our actions will define who we are as people, and we find that out very, very clearly here in our story here in the narration we have before us as to Elimelech and to Boaz. And certainly Boaz is someone that we can learn from in doing the right thing. Okay, Ish Gibor Hayil is not just somebody who's rich or powerful or got influence or power. He's a person who does the right thing. So I invite you, do the right thing in your life, move forward in service to God and service to Christ. That is truly being someone who is Hayil, be it Eshed Hayil or be it Gibor Hayil, but someone who does the right thing before the Lord, who is virtuous before the Lord and caring for your fellow man, your relatives, your friends, your family. You care for them because you are in service to God. So God bless and God strengthen you in this day. Till the next time.